Hey everyone, this time on Tim Talks Audio, we check out the latest from Black Salt Audio. This is Oxygen. So we've worked with the guys at Black Salt Audio before, and now we're checking out their newest plugin that just released. Oxygen is a different kind of processor that combines compression, EQ, and saturation to enhance the top end of things, whether it be buses, like instrument buses, vocals, or something like that, or you could throw it across your mix bus as well. We're going to be doing that to a number of different buses today, but you could also just kind of put this on individual tracks as you need. And you'll see what the controls are. It's pretty simple and pretty straightforward. So instead of talking about it, let's dive into the DAW and take a look at Oxygen. Okay, so here is Oxygen in its default state, whether you load this onto any of your tracks or buses or even master bus or mix bus, however you want to call it. And everything is all the way down. So let's kind of very quickly go over all of the different controls and what they do. So let's start right in the middle on the Oxygen control. And this is the overall EQ section of Oxygen. So you start with no additive top end for your signal, and then you can just kind of roll this up all the way up to 100, adding a nice smooth top end. And where that top end starts to come in at is selected by the buttons up on top, which are byte, presence, and air. They select the different crossover frequency for this top end shelf to give this nice top end lift. So the way you look at it here is byte is a little bit lower in your upper range of your frequencies. Presence is a little bit higher than that. And air is exactly what you think. It's all of that really high end stuff that we're going to be boosting from there. And it gives you a visual reference as well because it changes colors of the plugin from blue to purple to this neon purple kind of thing, a more saturated kind of look. Speaking of saturation, you may have noticed on the right-hand side is saturation for your selected and added top end. So you can have just a little bit of top end pushed with the Oxygen control and then come over and actually add some top end saturation into your signal as well. Then if you have this on a bus or a stereo track or anything like that, you do also get some width control. So you can actually push stuff out a little further to the sides and creating a much wider top end. And really when we're doing any kind of widening, you kind of want to do it to your top end to help keep all of that out to the sides and all of your lower information closer to the center. Like we've seen before, having a nice mono low end, this wouldn't affect that. The width control here only affects the things that are being affected by the plugin itself. Then there's also the compression section of the plugin, and that's over here on the left with two different kinds of control. Smooth is exactly like you would think. It's a smoother kind of compression, kind of eases in and eases out and gives it a warmer kind of sound, where punch is a little bit more snappy and gives you exactly like you think, a little bit more punch. And then how much compression is from the control knob down here. Underneath, you can adjust the output if maybe you're adding too much and your balance gets thrown off a bit, or maybe just your overall levels. You can kind of boost it up or back it off from here. And then if you're looking for any presets in this plugin, there is the preset navigator up on top, and there's a bunch of presets already in here from some mix engineers that you may or may not have heard of. I'm really excited to mess around with the Hendrik Oud presets as well as the presets from Jordan. But we're not going to use presets right now. We're going to actually just start dialing some stuff in. So I'm going to close this one out, and I'm going to open up the Oxygen that I have on my mix bus in just a second. First, let's take a listen to this little section of song I'm working on. And it's just going to be the raw tracks as they are. The only thing I have going on is some amp sims because these are all DI guitars, and I am using Ampire from Presonus on my bass, and then on my drum bus, I do just have a little bit of bus compression, and I'm using the Shadow Hills compressor to do that. But that's it. Everything else you're hearing is as it is. So let's take a listen to our raw tracks. So there you go. That's where we're balanced and starting at. And let's go right from the top, and we're going to mess with our mix bus. And we have oxygen on here, and I have kind of dialed some stuff in, and I'm going to hit play and let it do its thing. And then I'll mess around with the settings a little bit more and kind of make things really extreme so you can hear what's going on. Like I said, we're on our mix bus right now, a little bit of punch, a little bit of air, a little bit of saturation, and just kind of pushing things out to the sides with the width control. And I didn't adjust the output at all. So I'm gonna start the mix as it is, and then a couple measures in, I'll drop in oxygen, and a couple measures later, we'll start messing around with the controls. So there you go. We were working through all of the different controls. You could hear how much top end you actually can add once you really crank the middle oxygen control. And the saturation in the air band, which is where we stuck with on our master bus, as you get really extreme with it, yes, it can get very saturated, but it's not something I would do on my mix bus. But having a little extra saturation on the top end helps bring some extra presence in. So not only are we affecting the air, but we're also affecting some of that presence in those cymbal hits and the top end of the guitars and the top end of like our snare drum. Then I was going back and forth with punch and smooth for the compression section. And I did like punch better, but you can hear, especially the way we had it here, if you start going a little too much, it really kind of clamps down on everything on top and actually almost smothers it a bit. So that's why we backed it off. We're on our mix bus and we don't want to do too much there. And then we also just have a little bit of width. I think we started a little bit lower than that, just to kind of help push the top end out to the sides and make room in the center for the guitars and bass and everything in there. So we're going to leave this on our mix bus and let's just start moving through our different buses and see what we can do. So I'm going to switch over to the drum bus, and for now I'm just going to mute out the bass and guitars, and let's do oxygen on and off on the drum bus. And I've already dialed in some stuff here. You can see what I did. Again, a little bit of saturation, a little bit of width, the smallest amount of control, and we're going smooth on our drum bus, and we're doing a little bit more work with the actual, and we're going with bite on this one. So I'll start with it off, and a couple measures in, I'll turn it on. So there we go. It's bringing those cymbals to life, helping them kind of just stretch our top end and make the song feel taller, or make the drums feel taller right now. And let's put our bass and our guitar back in, and we'll do it again real quick, not nearly as long this time, where you can hear the drums feel taller. And that's something that kind of happens when you have this kind of top end enhancement. So we'll start with it off, and a couple measures in, we'll drop it in. Then we'll move on to the bass. So I don't want to go too far in because you're probably thinking, well, there's this clear volume jump that we have going on. And yes, that's why they gave you the output control. So when you have this volume bump, you can just kind of drop that back down and get your balance where it was. I'm not worried about that right now because we're going to be doing more processing on our other buses. So let's move on to the bass and we'll solo it out. Same thing like before. Here's the settings I came up with for the bass, doing a little bit more control of the top end and a little bit of saturation on a distorted bass. And we're just pushing byte a bit more. And you're probably thinking, well, this is a bass. What are you actually affecting? Take a listen because there is top end on a bass guitar, especially a distorted bass guitar, but even on just like a clean bass, there is top end, and you do want to enhance that top end on your bass. Let's take a listen. Let's do this real quick. I'm just going to take the guitars out and put the plugin in bypass on our bass. And with just bass and drums, take a listen to what it's doing for the bass. Now, let's bring our guitars in and then drop oxygen on those as well. We'll start with the guitars in solo as well. A couple measures, put oxygen in, and here's the settings that I came up with for oxygen on my guitar bus. And then we'll listen to everything both on and off again. A little bit in, we dropped our bass in so you could hear the contrast between the guitars and bass. Yes, we're getting a little bit more fizz out of those guitars, but I kind of want that. Now, let's do everything. We're going to do a quick before and after of without oxygen and with oxygen. So there it is. That's Oxygen from Black Salt Audio. If you're interested in picking up your copy of this plugin, use the link in the description because it will help out the channel and it'll also help you bring out the air in your productions. That's all for now. If you found anything informative, please like and share the video. For booking information, check out timflansbaum.com. And if you have a question, ask it in the comments and I'll answer it in a future video. Thanks for watching.